Welcome everybody to this live stream with Aino. This is the first one, and we intend to have this on a regular basis where we reflect upon what we stumble upon in our work from Aino to share that with you and create a dialogue from there. My name is Sven, and I have my colleague here.
Yeah, my name is Andreas.
And we both work with business development and thought leadership creation in the area called we call employee sustainability, which leads to overall productivity. And these are highly relevant topics this day. And we are now today reflecting upon the work we're doing together with CSR Sweden, hosted by the fantastic Marianne Bogle. She's hopefully on the call. And where we have the ability to work in a work group around Workability House, where we look at the factors that actually create a sustainable work environment, but also sustainable people in that environment. And we have interviewed a lot of companies over the year to identify an agenda for us. And now we have found that agenda, and we have clearly identified four critical success factors that every company needs to do in order to drive increased workability and well-being in the company. And these four topics, I don't know if they're coming here. And these are the things that we're going to continue the agenda. And we're going to reflect upon that from our perspective in Aino. And who are we? Well, we are a company who work with, we provide a SaaS solution that creates digitalization and data-driven support for managers to be more proactive on sick leave, for instance, and understand the root causes of sick leave and eliminate them. So it's like a fire detector in the company to prevent fires down the line and long-term sickness and stuff like that. We regard ourselves as a disruptor. We're not here to talk about us, but we talk about our reflections upon our work here. And to start off with that, one of the things we see is necessary in this whole area is that we continue to share and talk to each other between companies and organizations and stakeholders about good practice to understand, to drive and monitor well-being. We don't have so much to say about that factor. It's important. We need to identify what good looks like in terms of numbers and how to use those numbers in a consistent way, where we all can outline a perfect dashboard for real-time analysis going forward. There's a lot of stuff going on that's going good, but we're actually looking at the next topic that actually more relevant for all of us, given the coming regulations, etc., compliance reporting, and that is to identify what KPIs we should measure in terms of employee and also social sustainability. And Andreas, what is your key reflection based on that theme?
Yeah, well, just need to fill in one thing that if anybody is wondering why it says Aino Insight number 1, it's because we are going to have frequent live performances on a regular basis. So you can just keep on looking at, keep watch over that in LinkedIn. But to go to your question, Sven, identify KPIs for employee and social or employee sustainability. What I come to think of is there's a lot of things and a lot of KPIs, but I think about 3 different areas. I think first of all, we see a very nice and interesting discussion that's evolving right now. Sustainability people and HR. And we also see a trend that sustainability people are more increasingly wanting want KPIs from the HR, but they have in some areas maybe not so much ideas about, okay, what kind of KPIs is possible to look at. A lot of sustainability people are really, really good at looking at carbon dioxide and those kind of things, but employee sustainability is among quite a few a new subject. So in this particular case, we are helping both HR and sustainability to actually start to talk to each other and find out KPIs. And what kind of KPIs? Well, what is interesting to look at that really have an impact on sick leave? Well, there's a lot of KPIs. For example, the core causes for sick leave, for short time sick leave, to analyze it and be able to be more proactive. We're going to talk about that later on, but also the new demands on the ESRS from a European level, to find out what kind of KPIs is going to be shown in annual reports from perhaps as soon as 2 years from now.
Yeah, and the key takeaway there, to summarize that bullet, is that I think there's a knowledge gap on sustainability levels to understand what HR is actually doing, and also HR needs to get the power to gather this data or develop this capability to report on this compliance reporting. And once it's compliance reporting, it's because it doesn't work. It's like carbon dioxide. Something is at head here. If you look at the good practices today, very few of them focused on lack of well-being, like sickness, too high turnover, or too many people leaving, or etc. Whereas you ask people here that if you could only measure one metric in this area, where would you start? And of course, they would start where it doesn't work, and that is too high sick leave. That's kind of interesting, I think, for those KPIs. But this is something that's coming. It's happening now. And the question for sustainability leads is that what am I going to write in the next report? Annual report about my sustainability actions in this space. I'm going to hand over to the next question, and we see it there's a broken process across, and we're talking about three different things that are broken. It's a lot of point solutions for HR to do things to drive. It's nice to live in a workability house. It could be engagement service, it could be coaching, it could be all kinds of things in the whole benefits package, as opposed to create retention, etc. However, those things do not stick together. It's like a broken process between the systems. There's a broken process in terms of employee well-being across stakeholders, and there's data scattered around. What do I get for these investments, for all these benefits investments? And that's kind of interesting, because you spend quite a lot on every employee to invest in them, to feel good, to what do I actually get? What does that mean in reality? And as we usually say, engaged people are the ones who actually respond to the engagement service. The sick people do not even respond. So what is a dark figure here around this? And this is kind of interesting. Any comment from you there? Quick one, Andreas.
No, I agree. That's also what we are seeing, that there is a lot of goodwill in every company, for example, benefits models and so on and so forth. But there is also a need of calculating the ROE, or the return of the investment of the different initiatives. And also the lack of an overview or an overall strategy, being more proactive, as we will land in a couple of minutes. But yeah, I agree. The system is broken, as you say. There's three perspectives, as you mentioned. There's the overview of the actions, or the different benefits models, or the corporate health work, and so on. But it's also a broken process in regard of IT and systems. That there's a lot of data, that existing data, that is possible to analyze.
And if you, the thing that strikes me is that if you look at the thing, if you're going to drive sustainability, it's sustainable to work here. That I work at this company, and when I leave the company, I'm actually a better person. I'm not a broken person. Like we actually treat our machinery better than we treat our people in terms of proactive maintenance. And today we also see in the broken process, the one that suffers the most practically on a daily basis is the manager. In the volatile organization, where you maybe not always see your employees, it's hard to know what's going on in a daily routine, and they need to somehow they need to be empowered to be the leader they want to be. So, and if you look at the people who are not able to work, the healthcare and the welfare system is fantastic, but in the end, we need to recover a lot of that capacity. It's like we need to detect a fire before there's a fire. And how can we act earlier is information here. And the person who should act earlier is the manager. So how can we arm the manager and the HR with something so they can act earlier in this area? Because once you get into the healthcare providers, you're sort of medicalized. Then you got to be a provocative here. Once you end up in a care system, you're treated as something that needs caring. If you meet them earlier, then it's a manager responsibility. So I think manager not lets go. The case disappear from the manager too easy, I think. So the last section we call being more proactive. What do you mean by that?
Good question. When we talk to companies in different sectors, I think I need to stick up my chin a little bit and actually I think it's a medicalized view on a lot of the health issues. Companies tend to take care of problems when they occur. And one might ask oneself, why is that? That's might be a good discussion for next Aino Insight. But be more proactive. Take care of the actual information that you get from early support calls and make it visible what kind of core causes is the reason for the short-time sick leave and help those kind of insights to drive strategic work, more proactive strategic work, for example.
Yeah. And the key takeaway there as well that we're talking about maybe short-term sick leave, for instance. So, but then many companies defend themselves. We have also people who are sick but still working, and that's another thing. And I don't think that that's another totally different problem or challenge. That is, as long if they are sick and still working and not contributing, then that becomes very evident. But it's two types of topics. But being more proactive, this is actually a very, very big question. It's not only about money. It's not only about well-being. It's actually about capacity as well. Because some companies we talked about now recently over the years in this area is that you need to recover hours that is needed to actually keep the engine going here called Sweden. It's a national challenge, this one. If you look at our own welfare system, it's obvious that we don't have the number of people with that sick leave to be able to deliver what we already committed to. So there's a combination of recovered time to actually do what you're supposed to do and give you the right circumstances on that one. And that sort of ties up the whole process because then you need to measure that in the KPIs you talked about in the beginning. And you need to have a process where they have the overview. And from our perspective, we are the proactive guys, but we realize we are very fit to actually be part of the solution in the broken process, as well as we are enabling the reporting that is coming as a requirement.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about the leaders, which you mentioned before, that their reality is going to be much more. They have their employees in different projects and they don't have this day-to-day conversation. So the need of leaders in general to be more proactive is also a critical point.
Yeah. And one last comment here. And when we talk about sustainable employees, the best way of looking upon that is, of course, to keep them sustainable. But it's also to see the other flip side of that is to minimize being not sustainable. And once you're able to do that, you can push the same requirement on your subcontractors and do not put the same requirement on the subcontractors who are part of your supply chain or your delivery model. So they treat their employees the same thing. And that is what we call social sustainability. You have a power there, just like you select a carbon neutral subcontract, like you have want to treat the people in a good way. And how do you look at that? So that sums it up, all the thing. That's 50 minutes flies fast. If you have comments on future reflection, if you want to start a little debate, please you put your comments in the comments field. And these are our own reflections from Aino here, and based on our fantastic relationship with CSR Sweden and Marianne Bugler. So thank you for me. Do you have any last comments, Andreas?
No, big thank you. Nice to have this live.
Good. There's hope. There's a huge potential for all of us, though. But I think we need to work together and share best practice, good practice, and be open to change. Because whatever we're doing right now, it is not doesn't suffice for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.